Lauren, I'm the digital marketer here at Wharton, and today I'm here with Matt, our resident Batman. So what does a Batman do, Matt?
Batman goes out and finds bats, Lauren. But generally, I'm an ecologist. So I go out on sites, map habitats and species, undertake species surveys, and help developers to understand what the potential constraints and opportunities are at their development sites.
Brilliant. So today, obviously, I brought Matt into our lovely new meeting room here at Coton to talk to him specifically about newts and Great Crested Newt surveys, because we often get a lot of questions over the phone, such as what are Great Crested Newts, and are they even real? We've definitely had them compared to unicorns before.
They are real.
So the first question for you, Matt, is what is a Great Crested Newt survey?
So a Great Crested Newt survey is a survey that we as ecologists undertake. We're all licensed at Wharton, so we've all got Great Crested Newt licenses to undertake the surveys. And the purpose of the Great Crested Newt survey generally is to initially determine whether Great Crested Newts are present or likely to be absent from a site. And if we find out that they are present, then we need to understand roughly what the population size is. So we'll undertake surveys to understand that as well.
Perfect. And why do we need them?
We need them because Great Crested Newts are a legally protected species, and because of this they are a material planning consideration. So planners need to understand whether Great Crested Newts are present or not present at a site in order to make an informed decision about a planning application. So we provide those surveys to inform planning, and then the LPA ecologist will look at that and determine whether any further steps will be taken.
Okay, so in England we obviously have other newts such as palmate and smooth. Why is it only that Great Crested Newts are the ones that are surveyed?
So Great Crested Newts have got the most stringent legal protection. Other amphibian species such as common toad, they are what's known as species of principal importance. So during our surveys we might also make observations on other amphibian species as well. But the main focus of our surveys is to understand what the population of Great Crested Newts could be or is at the site, and therefore from that we're able to understand what do we need to do to make sure that planners and developers are compliant with legislation.
Okay, so how is a newt survey carried out?
There's a variety of ways you can undertake a newt survey. So generally for the physical surveys, we as ecologists will attend the site at dusk. We'll set usually bottle traps, which are essentially funnel traps that newts can swim into but they can't get back out of. We'll collect those in the morning to see whether we've got any Great Crested Newts in the traps, identify them all to identify their sex, and what their life stage is, so whether they're an adult, whether they're juveniles. Once we've done the bottle traps, we also do torch surveys. So at night time, when it's relatively dark, the newts are active. So we will use a high-powered torch in the margins of the pond and count how many newts we find, identify them against species and see what sex they are. We do what's called egg searching. So Great Crested Newts will lay their eggs on leaves and they'll use their back legs to fold the leaf over the egg, and that protects it. So the Great Crested Newt eggs are quite distinctive. They're quite large and they're like a creamy white colour. So we gently unfold the leaf, trying not to put it apart too much because we don't want the Great Crested Newt egg to be uncovered. And we can determine whether it's a Great Crested Newt egg just by looking at it usually. So that determines whether it's a breeding population. Another survey method is eDNA. So that's relatively recent, but it's been used quite frequently now. So we take water samples around the pond at 20 points, send the water sample off to a lab, they analyse it through the Great Crested Newt DNA, and that will tell us whether Great Crested Newts are there or not. It won't tell us the size of the population, but it will tell us whether they're there or not.
So that if they're present, okay.
Yep.
So how often or how many surveys are needed?
So if you're just looking to determine presence or likely absence, 4 surveys generally is the guidance. Again, if you do eDNA, you only need 1 visit to the site, and that will tell you whether you've got Great Crested Newts or not. If you need to undertake a population assessment, you need to do a total of 6 surveys.
Okay, so
that's it. Yeah.
Right, okay. So if someone does have newts on their site, what does that mean for them?
So it depends what the impacts are. So what we would do is determine where the Great Crested Newts are in relation to the project. we would understand how big that population is and therefore how likely it is to travel across the site. Make an assessment of what kind of habitat is at the site as well, because obviously certain habitats are more valuable to newts than others. So, for example, a hard standing site might be less valuable to newts than a woodland site would be. And we would make an assessment of the potential impacts that development could have on the great crested newt population, and from there we would make recommendations for further mitigation, which could include timing of works to avoid impacts. It could be creation of additional great crested newt habitat. It might also involve licence application to Natural England and capture and relocation of great crested newts.
Right, so on to my next question, although you sort of covered it a little bit with that. Where do newts live?
So great crested newts are both, they have a terrestrial and aquatic phase. So they will go into ponds to breed. They can also overwinter in ponds. But generally they spend a lot of time on land as well. So you're looking at habitat where they can tuck themselves in. So woodland is a classic one. Scrub is really good. Rough grassland, so we've got unmanaged grassland that's growing into tussocks. That's really good for great crested newts as well. Less suitable habitats, generally the built environment, hard standing, so really open exposed areas with not very many areas that they can tuck themselves away. Still water, usually. They don't like running water, although I have seen great crested newts in very slow flowing streams. Sort of where the water pools in a stream, they can be in there as well. So yeah, quite a wide range of habitats really.
Yeah, and then also probably a question that's still a bit out there. What's this about district licensing?
So district licensing is a relatively new approach that's being taken by a number of planning authorities. This involves mapping and modelling of the great crested newt population at the county level to understand where the populations are, and then the local council or Natural England would devise a mitigation strategy at that level. So instead of, at the moment we have a site-by-site approach where you take a development site and you would do mitigation for that site specifically, which might involve creation of habitat, relocation of newts. District licensing takes a more landscape scale approach to the problem. So the idea is that developers provide a financial contribution towards the creation of great crested newt habitat in the local area, and this in theory helps to ensure the favourable conservation status of great crested newts in that county. There is a sliding scale of impact, so depending on where your development is located, depends on how high the impact could be. So if you're in an area where there aren't very many great crested newts, there's less of an impact, and the financial contribution and the conditions of that licence are less stringent than if you were in a red zone or a high impact zone.
Well, that's all of my questions. I'm sure people have plenty more, but I think that's a really good overview of great crested newts and the surveys. Thanks, Matt, so much for your time today.
Not a problem.
Obviously, if anybody does have any further questions on great crested newts or any species specific, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for.
Species specific queries, that is.
Yes, we've got a team of 3 amazing ecologists here at Norton, so Matt, Eleanor or Lorna would be more than happy to discuss with you further anything else ecology related. And that's about that for today.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.